committee released its long-anticipated report on the Washington Commanders and owner Daniel Snyder. The committee concluded that Snyder, quote, permitted and participated in the team's longtime toxic work culture, and that Snyder and the NFL tried to block the committee's efforts. Investigative reporter Tisha Thompson has more.
The House Committee on Oversight and Reform released its findings after a 14-month investigation of the Washington Commanders' toxic workplace culture under owner Daniel Snyder. The 79-page report says the NFL buried the findings of its own investigation and was complicit in efforts by Snyder to obstruct the congressional inquiry.
We saw efforts that we've never seen before, at least I haven't, and where he was intimidating the workforce and the executives, anyone who spoke out. He had private investigators go to their home. He fired women.
Representative Carolyn Maloney chaired the committee, which released video of a private investigator attempting to collect information about a former cheerleader. The committee also released the deposition of Washington's former general manager, Bruce Allen, who said he too received a visit from a private investigator. Allen testified that Snyder told him he wanted private investigators to follow NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, and that Snyder added, "I'm going to find out something about him." ESPN reported in October that Snyder has bragged to associates that he's collected dirt on Goodell and team owners to stave off any attempts at forcing him to sell his team. A Commander spokesperson and the team's outside lawyers have denied the report.
I was surprised at the extent of it, but the cover-up and the extremes of it, when we did finally have to go to a subpoena because Mr. Snyder was not cooperating, he hid out on his yacht.
He did eventually do his deposition. Your committee found that he could not recall or he could not remember details more than 100 times during an 11-hour deposition. What was your takeaway from that?
Well, he's selectively forgetting or lying.
Maloney says a legal agreement between Snyder and the league prevented the release of more than 40,000 documents connected to the NFL's internal investigation by attorney Beth Wilkinson.
They were acting like they were doing something. Oh, look, we've hired Ms. Wilkinson. Then they turn around and fix it so that she can't talk. Her report is never going to be made public. And yet she was supposed to be hired to address it.
What did become public? Emails from Bruce Allen's team account containing derogatory and racist comments made by former Las Vegas Raiders coach John Gruden. Allen testified that when he became aware of the leak last October, he called a senior NFL executive who indicated that the Commanders were responsible for the leak. Allen said the NFL exec told him, "We didn't do it at the league office. It came out of their side."
An NFL spokesman contacted by ESPN Thursday said, "We have not seen a copy of the report and will decline to comment at this time." Attorneys for the Commanders have attacked the committee's report, saying it is one-sided and there are no new revelations. We bring in investigative reporter Tisha Thompson for more with Mina Kimes. And Tisha, you've gotten a statement from the NFL. What can you tell us?
I just got it, so I'm reading it off of my phone. It says the NFL is committed to ensuring all employees of the NFL and the 32 clubs work in a professional and supportive environment that is free from discrimination, harassment, or other forms of illegal or unprofessional conduct. It then goes point by point. It's much longer than statements I've received in the past on this issue. It goes point by point, refuting what the committee report states in that 79 pages. One line that I do see that I think is of interest is it says, "Far from impeding the investigation, the common interest agreement," which is that agreement we just referred to in the story, enabled the NFL efficiently to assume oversight of the matter and avoided the potential for substantial delay and inconvenience to witnesses. So we will continue to update our story online with many more details that are in this statement.
Yeah, of course, you can find that online as well if you're looking for more information. Tisha, has Dan Snyder resumed operation of the team?
So when he did his deposition in July, his testimony, of which we've reviewed as part of this report, he told investigators that he was receiving updates from team president Jason Wright and that he was providing advice, quote, when needed, and that he had been having meetings with head coach Ron Rivera about the, quote, future of the team.
Mina, what's your reaction to all of this?
Well, we've been talking about the story for a long time, right? It goes back to the initial reporting in the Washington Post about the harassment of cheerleaders, the harassment of female employees, reporting that Daniel Snyder himself knew about it, that he engaged in sexual misconduct himself. He's been accused of that, and then intimidated witnesses. And throughout all of it, it seems to me that the NFL has escaped the brunt of the criticism. I mean, I'm talking like real, sustained, intense criticism, the sort of criticism we saw during the Ray Rice scandal. So my reaction to the report is that in particular has to change, because what we have here is not just an owner who's engaged in frankly disgraceful behavior over the course of many years, but a league that has been complicit, a league that has enabled him in their inaction. The report lays out how the NFL knew about the intimidation, how the NFL, in their common interest agreement, which Tisha mentioned, allowed him to essentially interfere, blocking the release of documents. An NFL that let him negotiate the terms of his punishment. The report says half of that fine he could donate to charity and potentially write off. None of that is accountability. None of it is acceptable. And people always say, well, what now? Nothing ever happens. What needs to happen? Here's what needs to happen. Every time Roger Goodell is available to speak, every time the other 31 owners are available to speak, they need to be asked about this. They need to be asked, why are you okay with having this owner and who's committed all of this behavior amongst your ranks? They are the ones who ultimately need to hold him accountable, and all we can do is try to hold them accountable for their own inaction.
Yeah, Mina, very well said. And it's also worth pointing out that the owners are the ones that hold the real power, even over Roger Goodell himself. Before we let you go, I wanted to ask, what happens next, Tisha?
Well, this is a chapter that is closing in a much larger story. The congressional investigation is essentially over. Republicans are taking over in January and have already indicated that they're not going to continue this investigation. However, over the 14 months that this has been going on, it has generated other government investigations, including the D.C. Attorney General, who has launched a civil lawsuit against the team and the league and Snyder. There is an investigation going on with the Virginia Attorney General. There is a investigation happening with the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, according to sources. That is a criminal inquiry. And of course, there is the Mary Jo White investigation that started in February after women testified in front of Congress. And that is the NFL's second internal investigation looking into Snyder and the Commanders.
It's also worth reminding everyone that the news came out relatively recently that Daniel Snyder was looking to sell the team and started the actions necessary to do so. Thanks so much to Tisha Thompson, investigative reporter here, for joining us today. And thanks to Mina for your thoughts. Still to come.